you end up getting what you think you are. You end up getting what you think you should deserve, or something happens and you say, I shouldn't deserve that. I'm going to break away. Nah, I deserve better than that. I'm going to break away.
If I am arrogant and believe I deserve more than I really do, I'm going to repel anyone who can see through that. If I am under, I'm going to tolerate anyone.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was episode number 1346, the two most important things when it comes to your money. If you did not listen to that one, I would suggest listening to it highly because it was very, very valuable. Today, for episode number 1347, you'll never feel like you deserve it until you do this. So something Alan and I say a lot behind the scenes is nobody is at 5. Almost every single person we have ever met is either under or over. And we've said that in many things: self-worth, self-belief, just so many things. But one of the things that is hard to connect is when we're talking about self-worth and how much somebody believes they deserve something. There's a lot that is connected between those two things. So for this frame, or for this episode, anytime I say under or over, we are talking about, to some degree, self-worth. Would you agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I would say a deserve it factor.
Deserve it factor. I was going to say that, but I figured if you don't know what that means, similar to self-worth is probably the best way to frame it. And
Very similar.
We'll get into the weeds with that. So when Tara and I went to Colorado last year to elope and kind of a mini honeymoon, we were thinking to ourselves, okay, this is the first time we've really been away since we've had the cats. So we're going to be away for, I think we were away for 10 days. We're not going to ask somebody, family, to come stay or whatever it is. Like, that would be a pain for them. Let's just hire somebody who does this as a job, and we'll just pay them to do it because we can trust them. We'll meet them first. And there was also the part of, well, we want to build a relationship with somebody because if we do want to travel, we want to have somebody reliable. So we find somebody on one of these apps, and Taryn sets up a time for this person to come over.
Cat app?
Well, what is it?
Cat app?
I don't know what it was. It was some pet sitting app. I don't know which one it is.
Cool.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I don't even know. Cat app I just made up. I don't even know if it's real.
I don't think it's real, but if it's not, there you go.
Good idea.
Side business.
Yep.
So this person comes over, and it's set up as a meeting where you meet this person and they meet your pets and you make sure everything's kosher, pretty much. And immediately we were like, oh, this is the person. Just a sweet human being. You could tell they absolutely love animals. The cats both actually like this person. So it was really good. We were like, all right, this is perfect. How much do you cost? What's the price? How much is it? And it was very interesting where the person said, I don't know. What do you think? Like, what do you think's fair? And I remember thinking, no, this person's in trouble. This person is in trouble. Because we didn't really agree on a price until we got home. This person kind of watched our kitties for free. And then when we got home, they were like, yeah, whatever you think is fair. Like, okay, interesting. That's a very, very dangerous place for somebody to begin their journey, because if you don't feel like you're worth the money, you'll never ask for the money. And if you never ask for the money, unfortunately, people are going to undervalue you because you're kind of undervaluing yourself. Now, I'm going to speak from a money perspective. Alan's going to go a little bit deeper. But here's the problem. Under and over, okay? In this example, this person is under. This person does not believe in their own unique abilities. They don't believe in their own unique value. Therefore, they're going to allow people to undercharge them. And that, unfortunately, can become normal. And that's going to lock in that price and that self-worth and that expectation. And the expectation continues to bring the result. So an example I always use is an unfortunate one that Alan and I have seen time and time again. Somebody gets into a relationship. They are taken advantage of in some way, shape, or form. That tends to attach to their self-worth, and then they go under. I'm not valuable, I'm broken, I'm not enough, whatever it may be. Problem is, since you're undervaluing yourself, the next person that comes into your life who should get nexted does not get nexted because you do not believe at a deep level that you deserve more. Pattern happens again. And then it just tends to keep happening and happening and happening unless you get to the point where you say, no. I deserve way better than this. Even if you don't know how to get it yet, I deserve way better than this. So you'll never feel like you deserve it until you do this. It's almost like, this is a fine line and this is a balance and there's a lot of intricacies, but it's almost like you have to do the thing you don't feel like you deserve yet. So in this example, this cat sitter has to say, this is my price. And they have to go through and figure out what's fair and what are they actually worth and what can people afford, of course. But my price is, whatever, $400 a week, whatever the going rate is. I don't know. I don't even remember what it was. $400 a week. That is what I charge. Rather than saying whatever you think is fair. Somebody who is over might say, I charge $4,000 a week because I'm the best pet sitter this side of the Mississippi River. It's like, well,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can't afford to pay $4,000 for a week.
It doesn't matter how good you are.
Because
you can't do it. Yeah.
We will not be able to go on the trip and I'll just stay here with the cats.
Yep.
Over and under. Under tends to create more opportunities for under, unfortunately. Over tends to create lack of results and entitlement. Most of the community, I would say, is under. There probably are people listening who think they're under but are actually over and think they're over who are actually under. Again, it's very hard to judge by just talking into a microphone, but I just want you to realize where you are, where your default setting is, and then how you can start to kind of break that down. So if I was giving this person advice, I would say, hey, look, just a little bit of constructive feedback if you're open. I would ask first. When you came in and you started talking about money, you got very insecure, and I completely understand. I was very much that way in the beginning as well, but people are going to sense that out, and people are going to take advantage of you. And you're never going to get what you're worth because you are dictating your worth based on your own self-worth. So maybe to start trying, I might even say try it with me. Like, let's talk about money. What do you think you should charge? So that's just an example of this kind of in the real world.
Well, if you're a brand new speaker and you're charging $20,000 per speech,
right,
you're over.
You're not going to get a lot of speeches, probably.
You're not going to get a lot of speeches. You're not going to get any speeches, most likely. I coached a client of mine who had given dozens, if not 100 plus speeches, has a world-class, in many ways, YouTube channel and gets paid $10,000 per speech. But even he has trouble getting speeches at that rate. And if you're a brand new speaker trying to get $15,000, $20,000 per speech, you're just in so much trouble. Seriously. Except for very unique circumstances. But then you have the other side of the spectrum where you've been speaking for 5 years and you're still doing it for free.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about here. So Kev, I think it's important for us to share your experience. I didn't realize until now that we should share this, but in the beginning of Next Level Podcast Solutions, you were under, and then you shot way over with the Steve thing. And then now we landed in the middle, which is fascinating because the middle 5 is optimal. It's what's best for you. It's what's best for the client. It's what's best for the market. And the context that I'll give here is you shouldn't charge, $50 for an iPhone, but you definitely shouldn't charge $5,000.
Yeah. Because
if it's $5,000, no one's going to buy it. Very few people. If it's $50, it's obviously not profitable because it costs more to make it than that. So you can't win that game. So yeah, Kev, early on, you didn't maybe know your value and then you started winning and then you inflated your value. Can you talk about that?
It's very interesting because I didn't really come up with the prices in the beginning. You and I were talking about it and I didn't really know. I don't think I came up with
the
it.
Steve story, I told you don't do that.
Yeah. When we had so for those, I said it recently, but just a quick version. We had a multi-millionaire who wanted to start a podcast. He's like, what do you think about $1,000 a month? I'll give you 3 months up front. You can promote on the podcast or on my podcast. And I was like, $1,500 or hit the streets, sir. He hit the streets, sir, and never to be seen or heard from again.
Said person again.
It's
take a hike.
Take a hike.
You know, which he did.
I remember I had a client. This is a really good test for me. I had a client potential client, and we jumped on Zoom, and I did what I normally do. It wasn't really a normal breakthrough session because this person said, I want to start a podcast. And I was like, all right, you just want to talk numbers? You don't want to know how much it is? And she said, and I quote, she said, I'm going to be the easiest sale you've ever made. And I was like, cool, love that. It's $790 what you're looking for, whatever it was, $797. And she's like, oh my God, it's way more than I thought. And I was like, oh no. And then I just sat there. It's like, well, that's what it's worth. That's what it is. That's how much it cost. But that came through a lot of me feeling the struggle of communicating that. It's I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm a good example of it. Because you got to think.
Well, in the beginning, you weren't like that. In the beginning, you were
whatever it is.
Going to our first client's house 3 times for free for 3 hours. But
that person was still paying a good amount of money. So,
but not nearly what your time was worth.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, how much? Let's do this real quick. How much time did you invest for the first client just to get launched?
Oh man, I went to see this person in person 3 times, an hour each. So there's 6. I went to their house for probably 410
plus drive time.
Yeah, probably like 18 hours.
Okay, so 18 hours. And how much extra did you charge for that?
$0.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you would never do that again, at least not to that same extent.
I might in the beginning.
Yeah, that's my point.
Oh, yeah.
In the beginning, you have to do that.
Yeah,
that was really important. Yeah.
But
now you have 44 clients. Right. We have 44 clients and 44 shows. We actually can't do that.
Right.
You don't have that kind of time anymore.
Yeah.
So I want people to realize that this 5 changes. It's a sliding scale.
Mm.
It really does. It changes. Like, and I use Taylor Swift a lot, but Taylor Swift 14 years ago at the Backyard Barbecue was doing that for free.
Right.
If she's still doing concerts for free, she's in a lot of trouble. Right? There's no reason for her to do that now. And I think that's the thing that I want to make land, and I want to get off the wealth thing in a second. I want to talk about self-worth and, more important, the deserve it factor. But I talked to Emilia about this recently. It's like, if you have a line out the door for your coaching, you should raise the price. But if you have no one that you're coaching, like that pet sitter, to bring it back to that, if she has 50 people that need her and only 20 hours a week, you should charge more. Right. It's just simple supply and demand. If you have no people and 20 hours a week, you need to do it for as little as possible if that's your passion. And I think a lot of people get that wrong. But to bring it back to the deserve it factor, I wanted to bring this up. You're either over or under, which Kevin already mentioned. And I think you swing sometimes. I think we're all trying to consistently find 5. I think in the beginning you were under. And then I think you overswung, and then I think you swung back. And now I think you're optimal. You know, some people think they're worth, whatever they want, regardless of effort. I think that's an extreme. And then some people think no matter, regardless of effort, they're not worth much. And I think our listeners tend to be on the lower end of that. But sometimes I've seen this happen. I had one client who reached out to me recently, and she's like, oh my God, someone reached out for fitness advice. This is so cool. And in those moments, it's like, of course, to me, you're great. You're going to kill it. You've done well. Like, it makes sense that you post about it, and it's very inspiring. So for me, it's like, yeah, of course. But what if she kept winning? Would all of a sudden she think, would she get an ego for some? And that I've been guilty of that. Everyone is guilty of that to some extent, where it's like, oh, awesome, and you and I, that would happen if we got 50 speeches, if we were just getting hit up all the time for paid speeches, would we keep perspective? Would we stay grateful? I'll give you this tiny example. I did a lot of speaking, I did a lot more speaking early before Kevin and I were together. That was my main focus before podcasting. And for me, podcasting was an opportunity to speak and practice my craft without having to actually go travel and have permission from someone else, an event coordinator or college or whatever. But there was this one professor who saw me speaking. She came to visit one of the other professors that I was speaking at. She said, hey, leave me your card. I was like, oh, perfect. Alan Lazaros LLC. Here's my card, right? What you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know. And I unintentionally was less appreciative than I should have been. And she canned it. She's like, you know what? Nope. And I asked her for feedback later. I was like, can I understand why? And she said, just your attitude. You didn't seem super grateful. And I was like, damn. And things were rolling for me at that point. I had given, 5 speeches in 5 months or whatever. And I thought I was starting to really get somewhere. And so I did. I think I was a little bit over. And I think I started out probably under. And I think that's what happens is, and for all the listeners, it depends on the context too. Maybe you're over in your career, but under in relationships. Or maybe you're under in relationships and over in your career, which I think is the same thing. But
hi, my name is Tim Melanson, and I have a web development agency called Creative Crew Agency, and I'm also a podcast host of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. I met Alan a little over a year ago. He was a guest on my podcast, and we had an epic conversation, and I was just really impressed with his work ethic. And so I decided to jump on board with him, and it's been a little over a year now. My business has grown, but more importantly, I feel much less stressed and much more purposeful with what I'm doing and the direction that I'm going. So I definitely highly recommend Alan. If you're looking for some accountability, if you're looking for some tools, then look him up, take him up on his consultation.
Last story real quick, Kev. This was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had with a client. This client was extremely lonely. And I care about this person deeply, and I want to see them win, and my coaching's mostly peak performance, but a lot of times we talk about relationships. And we went through all the M's of motivation. We've done episodes on it, and mating/romance is one of them, marriage/romance. And this person, their most important dream to them was starting a family and having a great marriage. And this person had been single most of their life, and they had only had a couple partners. And I knew the reason why. This is one of the hardest conversations I've ever had with a client. I said that you should not want a partner that is of a higher caliber than what you are willing to hold in your own standards. And so this person, from my perspective, had been single her whole life, and I figured out why. If you are trying to attract something or someone that has way higher standards and capabilities and looks and, values than you, you're going to end up single. Versus the opposite is no standards at all. You're not going to be single at all.
Right.
And I know you've seen this before too, Kev. And this was hard for me, but I really wanted to help her. And I said, so do I have permission to give you some hard truth here? That's why you hired me. She said, of course. And people say that, but I said, from my perspective, what you're trying to attract is of a higher caliber than what you can currently attract. Looks-wise, fitness-wise, intellect-wise, values-wise, personal development set point-wise, you're looking for a 10 out of 10, but you're not willing to put in the work to become a 10 out of 10. One of the hardest conversations I've ever had, because I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. I want to see her succeed. I don't want to see her alone for the rest of her life because her standards are here for her partner, but yet she's only here. And so what's really cool about this story is that this person is now in a relationship that's magnificent, but she was over. And after that conversation, she started to reevaluate some of the people that were in her life, and she started to go, you know what? That's fair. Okay. And so she started to date someone, and now she's way happier, way more fulfilled, because now she's dating someone who I believe is at that caliber. And they're both growing together, so it's a wonderful thing. But that was hard for me to share. I was scared to share that because I like lifting people up. I don't want to tell people, listen, you're shooting above your pay grade. That's not fun. But it is important if someone's over.
Well, that's where we said this before. We are not naturally attracted to people that are over. I would rather
Same.
help somebody that's under for the rest of my life.
Same.
Because I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to be over too. But the only way to get somebody who's over to level is to kind of knock them down with love or whatever,
Yeah.
giving them feedback. So yeah, I can imagine it was a very challenging conversation. But to your point, being under doesn't serve you or anybody around you. It definitely doesn't serve you. Maybe I won't say it doesn't serve people around you because you can get taken advantage of, and maybe that seems like it's serving other people. Being over doesn't serve you. It definitely doesn't serve you because you're probably not going to get any results in the places you want to get results in.
And it definitely doesn't serve others.
No.
It's entitlement. You're providing less service and expecting more in return.
You and I said this the other day. I had a realization of why I cannot stand most of the ads that I see on social media, because they create over. They create people to go over, where it says, sign up for this course and you'll get your first $25,000 paying gig in 30 days. It's like, no, that's not real. You're creating entitlement. You're creating over.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. That's not the way it works. It just doesn't work that way. But you have to get a little over to believe that's possible. You know what I mean? It's almost like you can't be in reality and think that's going to happen. You have to go over. You have to feel like you're way more valuable than you actually are. That entitlement. So again, I would say our demographic is mostly under, but there's definitely some people who have disguised that.
What is the benefit of being accurate from your perspective? We've talked about this, but I want to try to, because reality, right? Like,
yeah,
we
it's
talked
truth.
about the banjo minnow. I'm just going to go high level. When I was young, I got hoodwinked by an infomercial that made it seem like this banjo minnow, Kevin remembers it, like, you're going to be a world-class fisherman because you have this lure. And it doesn't work. You know, I caught more on just regular worms than that thing. And I was a decent fisherman, so it had nothing to do with the lure. Not nothing, but very little. It's like, buy this snowboard and you're going to be like Shaun White. No, you're not.
If you don't know who Shaun White is, he's one of the best snowboarders
in history.
Ever.
And by the way, that devalues Shaun White. You're taking away the 30 years it took him to get that good. It does bother me.
Same.
I don't like entitlement. Like, no snowboard is gonna make me Shaun White. You know what I mean? Like, but again, that's what ads are.
Yep.
And that's why they're not real. Social media is a lot of that too. So Kev, for the listeners, why does reality matter so much?
I think it sets you up for a realistic outcome. You can kind of predict what's going to happen when you're living in reality. You kind of have an idea of, why didn't this go the way I expected? You know what? I was a little over there. Why didn't this go the way I was a little under there? That person could tell I was insecure. If you're not accurate, it's very hard to get predictable results.
Fine.
That's part of it. And then I think the other part of it too is, if you're under, you're not getting opportunities at the rate that you could. Opportunities, people, place, thing, idea, everything. You're just not maximizing what you have. It's almost like if you're $1 and you treat yourself like a quarter, you're only going to get a quarter of the results. But if you're $1 and you try to convince people you're a $50 bill, a lot of people are going to see right through that.
Mm-hmm.
And that can only last for so long. That you'll never be treated as you should. And you should be treated, obviously, with respect and all that, but I'm just saying from like an energetic level, you end up getting what you think you are. You end up getting what you think you should deserve, or something happens and you say, I shouldn't deserve that, I'm going to break away. Nah, I deserve better than that. I'm going to break away. And it's that.
Yeah, that really landed. I deserve better than that. I'm out.
Yeah.
Very empowering. Oh, I deserve better than that. Or no, I don't deserve to be treated like that. I'm out. It's interesting to me. Okay, last piece of this. If your goal is to be in love with someone who's the soul's recognition of its counterpoint in another. Okay? Fortune cookie quote, but I love it. I do believe that is Emilia. The soul's recognition of my counterpoint in another. It's beautiful. Okay. I think that there were times in my life where my standards were much lower than what I did deserve.
Mm.
I believe there were times in my life where I was arrogant and I believed I deserved more than I really did. If I am arrogant and believe I deserve more than I really do, I'm going to repel anyone who can see through that. If I am under, I'm going to tolerate anyone.
Mm.
And so you have to consistently check in on this. You have to always check in on this. I mean, even with the Steve thing, you were like, hey, $1,500 or nothing, take a hike. And he took a hike. You learned the lesson. So you're either going to get humble pie. If you think you deserve it by default, you're going to get humble pie. If you think you don't deserve anything, you're going to get walked on.
Mm. Yeah.
And we're always swinging back and forth.
This person in this analogy had very high self-worth. That's why he said, I deserve better than that. And he left. Where somebody else might have been like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess. It's not really what I want to pay, but I guess.
It's fair.
It's
landed in a deeper way for me this time. It's good.
It's a very powerful concept. I'm telling you, it's with confidence. It's with everything. Everything, the internal game, we're going to talk about that later this week too, but it's one of the hardest things in the world to work on. And that's where so much of the stuff is. If it resonates with you and we say you don't get taken advantage of, whatever that means, energetically, you don't get treated the way you feel you deserve, and that's a pattern, it's most likely a self-worth issue. Definitely. Most likely. Or unrealistic expectations. One of the two. Again, with our audience, with our NLU family, usually it's the first one, but you never know. You never know. Next Level Nation, I remember when I started tracking habits, I had a little notebook like Alan, and I think it was yellow, and I would make I've made 5 check marks or 5 boxes, and every day I'd go through and check them off. And at the end of the day, when I was getting ready to prepare for the next day, I'd erase them, and I'd do the same thing the next day. Every single day, that's what we did. So we ended up making an app, because having an app is a little bit easier than carrying a notebook around with you. You already have your cell phone. So if you are in the market for a habit tracking app, check out our app, Optimal. Makes life a lot easier. And if you are just dipping your toe in, it's far easier than you checking boxes all day and then erasing them at the end of the day.
Habit tracking made simple. The link to the landing page on the website will be in the show notes. All the information you need is there, and we hope to see you over there. Kevin and I both track our habits every single day on there.
We do.
Optimal. Habit tracking. Made simple.
Yeah.
Also, our next monthly meetup is June 1st. How to stick with something for the long run. There's a little picture of a mountain and there's a flag at the top of it, and there's several different peaks. How far you go in life is going to be predicated on these 3 words: consistency, sustainability, and improvement. How consistent can you be? How much can you stay and sustain that consistency? And how much can you improve along the way? We are going to help you with all 3 of those words in this meetup. Please join us. The link to register will be in the show notes.
Hey, man, strong work.
Thank you, man.
Tomorrow, hold on, I've lost my, oh my goodness. Please hold.
I'm going to need you to get it together.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I closed my, 1 second. So for
our
those
listeners, I'm being playful. I hope they know that I'm not actually saying that.
For those just listening, usually I have my laptop, and then we have the big screen behind the camera. Usually I have my laptop open, and it tells me, hey, this is today's episode, this is the next episode. And somehow my tab got closed. Tomorrow, for episode number 1348. Happy Friday. I'm not the type of person that we are going to talk a bunch about identity, and we're going to talk about how kind of similar to today. Are the results that you want as a human being congruent with the type of person that you are/believe you are? If not, it's going to be very hard to accomplish those things. So we will be talking about that tomorrow. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Check in on that deserve it factor. Next Level Nation.